All right, guys. So, hanging out in my beat laboratory, aka my garage, where I like to tinker on all my stuff. Got a couple dumb little projects going on right now. Just to be kind of all inclusive with you guys, I'm trying to put together one of the most informative, uh, I guess, straightforward, but also not necessarily brutally honest, but completely forward with you guys in terms of showing you my successes and my failures also. So I've showed you guys a couple of mistakes that I've made over the past few months. Showed you, things that I've done that have been tremendous successes for me. That I've also given you tips on some other things. So today I want to talk to you about my first, what I'm going to consider to be a massive failure. So, not to displace blame, but we're going to break this down into, I guess, two halves. My half is going to be $600 to fix. The other half is for the company that came in and finished this job. So back in February, if you guys watch my video about oxidation removal from Dryvit and stucco, you'll see that I'm cleaning a blue pillar type building. So all of the bushes on the front of that building, there's about 37 boxwoods. So those are pretty much dead. I got a call about a week ago from the owner, and he said, hey, can you come out and take a look at this? I called the construction company that hired you. They're going to come out and look at it as well. My plants are turning brown, and I don't know if they're just late blooming or what's going on. Can you just run by and look at them? I was like, sure, no problem. Things happen. Whatever it is, we'll get it figured out. So I swing by there. As soon as I pull in the parking lot, I know these things are smoked. So talking with the construction company that came in and resurfaced the Dryvit and kind of did some touch up on the building on different places, came to the conclusion that these plants never really had a chance to survive to begin with. Reason being is when I did that job, the day I did it, it was kind of a drizzle, a little bit of a rain, kind of a drizzle, but it was also about 39 degrees, if I remember right, and what we could figure out, from looking at our phones. But it was about 38, 39 degrees. It was probably not the best day to do that job, but it was the only day where the weather was acceptable to do the job, because they were coming in that next day to come in and do the repairs. So I spent about 5 hours on the job, cleaned the whole building, and use the same exact house wash mix that I've used on everything else. I mix up 90 gallons of water, 10 gallons of bleach, and then I'll throw in about I think on that job I might have used an extra gallon of EBC. But the chemicals at hand, same exact thing that I've used hundreds of times before. So taking into account 38 degree temperature, a little bit of a drizzle. If you look at the flower beds that these bushes are mounted in, or not mounted, but they're planted in, there are what appear to be French drains in this type of setup, in these flower beds. I didn't do any further investigation. I just saw the French drains there. I saw the openings for them, kind of assumed that, hey, we're good on drainage. What I didn't realize is that these plant beds are completely landlocked. These French drains do not go under the sidewalk and go away from the building. They're literally the most landlocked flower beds I've ever dealt with. So the French drains are fake. They don't actually do anything. They literally just give the water an area to disperse within the flower bed, and then it stays there until it evaporates. So my responsibility within this is obviously, using bleach and assuming that a pre-wet and then a rinse of the plants, just like I've always done, the typical do-it-yourself ground guy type thing. I assumed that I was going to be fine with these because it's worked, like I said, hundreds of times before. I've never had an issue with plants. What I added to the weather and the fact that these plants got chemicals on them was also the very next morning. After that night it dropped down below freezing, we had a little bit of a soft freeze. So those plants got shocked, they froze, and then the next morning the company came in to resurface the Dryvit on the building and touch up some other things. They set up scaffolding on both sides of the blue pillars. And that scaffolding went back about 5 feet away from the pillars, but in the meantime, when they set that up, they tarped the top of those boxwood shrubs a pretty good distance away from the pillars, trying to keep the Dryvit and the paint material off of them. So, it was already cold. The plants got shocked with chemicals. There was no adequate drainage beyond what I initially assumed there would be. The post-rents didn't do anything. Hard freeze that night. The plants got shocked again with the weather. The next morning, the company comes in, sets up scaffolding, and tarps everything and keeps it that way for, I think, about 3 or 4 days. And, there's only so much those plants can take. Boxwoods are not necessarily tough plants. They will kind of bloom and keep green, and they will survive through a lot of stuff. But when it comes to all those different factors involved, there's nothing you can do beyond that. So, big lesson learned on my part. It's going to come out of pocket, $600 for this. The company's going to cover the other half. So we both came to an agreement and said, hey, look, we both kind of handled this the wrong way. So we're replacing 45 boxwood shrubs. That's going to be done, I think, next week, because they're going to try to get this building ready for the grand opening first weekend in May. So happening pretty quick. It's not something that I really wanted to deal with, but if I have to deal with it and I can make it value added for you guys, for you to look at different things when you go estimate jobs, then we can all kind of learn something from this, and you guys can use my mistake as your future success. So take this and look at the clips and kind of run with it. See ya.